Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Naidrich, one of the founding partners here at Amerivet Securities, and I have the good fortune today of being joined by our head of rates, Greg Faranello. Hey, Greg, how are you? Great to see you again.
Good to see you, Mike.
Okay, it's been about a month and a half since the last time the Fed met, and what's changed since the last Fed meeting?
So in a nutshell, not really much, right? The key macro themes out there are still the same. We've got Brexit and China, and we seem to be making progress on both. On the flip side, toward the end of September, we had weak prints with the ISM numbers, both manufacturing and non-manufacturing, driving 10-year yields into around 150. We've since backed up from there. So in general, you look at forward inflation expectations, the same risks that were in the market in September are still relatively the same today.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the themes that we've seen in between the two meetings.
Sure, that's a good question. So repo on one hand and the actual rate decision on the other. So when you look at repo, on October 11th, the New York Fed came out and announced the beginning of an expansion of the Fed's balance sheet with purchases of T-bills, which was really largely expected on our part and the market, right? And the goal there is to increase the bank reserve levels, which had gotten down to a level that the Fed was uncomfortable with and which, in their mind, triggered part of the repo hiccup in mid-September. On the flip side, we have the actual rate announcement. And today, when you look at the Fed speak, really over the course of the last meeting to this meeting, it's still mixed. The committee is still divided. But within the chairman's core group of committee members, within all of this Fed speak that we've heard recently, there's still room for a cut today.
Okay, so I think you might have just foreshadowed there a little bit. But you know how we do this, and I think it's actually very interesting in what a difference a year can make, right? I think at this time last year, we were sort of pricing in 3 hikes. What's your call today?
Yeah, so what's the call? I mean, we're priced for a cut today. We think the Fed's going to deliver, right? And to your point, Mike, it's true, right? This time last year, the Fed was on course for a 3% Fed funds rate. Okay, no sooner, a year later, we're on the cusp of a third ease. Chairman Powell has referred to the mid-cycle adjustment. Now, he's backed away from those words, but the spirit coming from the Fed, in our view, is still very mid-cycle. And when you look at prior periods that the Fed reverts back to, namely, call it 1998, they did cut 3 times in the middle of a cycle of normalizing rates higher. So we're going to go with the Fed on this. We think they'll cut today, but we also think they're going to push back a little bit, right? I don't think they'll close the door entirely, but if you listen to some of the chatter coming out of the Fed, a lot of what you're hearing is no preset course going forward, right? So to us, that means the Fed is likely to be very data dependent going forward. They're probably not going to make any promises in terms of future easing. And with the third cut this year, they've more than fulfilled the mid-cycle adjustment. With that, we think we turn to the data very quickly. Today we got the ADP print, which was not so bad. And Friday we get non-farm payroll. So the Fed comes and goes today. They cut 25. They push back a little bit. They talk about the funding distortions from September. And then we're right back to the data.
Well, you've been spot on the last 3 times, so let's go 4 for 4. I know you'll be following the rhetoric very carefully. I know you dive deep into this, and we'll follow up with our clients after that. So we always appreciate your time very much, Greg. Many of our clients have reached out recently to Greg. He's had a lot of one-on-ones, a lot of phone calls, a lot of meetings. If anyone would like to speak to Greg, please call your registered representative at Amerivet, and we'd be happy to have him get on a call or get out and see you right away. Thank you so much, and everyone have a great day. Thanks again, Greg.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, be well.